What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to go over my top 10 April picks with the new rule set. This will definitely change up the meta, and this is going to be crazy to talk about. I'm excited to see what decks kind of flourish. This is going to be chaos for a little bit, and what ratios will change up. But for now, let's talk about my top 10 picks, and maybe they'll be different than yours. So without further ado, let's talk about it in the main video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see where we go from here. So first off, they announced Mulligan is effective April 1st, 2023. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. So this changes everything. You can decide on how you go determine. You draw 5 cards from your deck. Look at your hand. You may choose to redraw all the cards at once. If you've chosen to redraw your cards, return all your hand to the deck, shuffle it, redraw 5 cards. If you do not choose to redraw your cards, proceed to the next step. Take the top 5 cards, place them at the top of your deck of your security stack, start game. So now, instead of, having the security losing out on 5 and being only 40 card pool, now you have the full 50 twice. So odds and determinations change up, and variable factors definitely change. So decks that used to be a little bit slower now pick up pace because now consistency is now on their side. Things change up so much, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, but we have so much to talk about. First off, let's get into my 10th place deck I'm going to talk about that I think will definitely still affect the meta, and that is going to be Black War Greymon X. The deck is still consistently good. It kind of shifts over probably to a more OTK strat because they're going to still want to use Greymon X. If they see it, they're one of copy, then going into this Metal Greymon is a lot more threatening. The only scary part is if you can't get off this Greymon in any capacity, you might want to switch this to being the security one, but the blocker one's still consistent enough. The only deck this deck has to fear is none other than, Grandis or, Metal Garurumon a bit, but again, everybody's kind of just picking up pace, and a lot of decks just get so much better with just this support line that changed up. I can't even express how crazy it got. So the deck's still quite the same. You'll either go for the OTK strat with Black War Greymon here that would just digiburst everything, so you would use more Metal Greymon X just for the extra security swing, pow pow pow, and stuff like that. And you use this to power boost, and you power through, you truck through, you take out all their security all in one turn, and then your opponent is left kind of on the wayside. Or you kind of can take it a little bit slower. You de-digivolve twice if for whatso reason. The thing about this was what made this deck super scary was the fact that you would digivolve on top of Greymon X antibody for 2, and with that new Mulligan rule, this deck would have went out of hand with that Mulligan rule. So I think this now alleviates that issue in a way. But now you have better chances, better odds. This deck's now a little bit weaker. It's not going to be as oppressive. And now you don't have to require to play as many X antibodies. You do play the old Greymon X antibody just so that when you go into the top end of like Gaia or Black War Greymon X, it's not a terrible top end. Stuff like this really does make or break a difference. And you kind of really aren't going to be trying Metal Greymon X as much because you want to have when you go off with this more often than not. And you want to have that extra DP boost. Then I think Lilith Loop is definitely a solid 9th place just because of the way that now we have the Mulligan. Now you can shuffle back your whole deck, and maybe those key pieces, now you're more likely to get a rookie. You might get some value that you were missing out on. Being able to put stuff back and shuffle is huge, and Lilith Loop really, or Merva Loop here, really liked having the key pieces. Now key pieces are more likely to happen. You draw as much as you always did, but now that opening bad hand is now less likely to happen, especially because we draw first now, and this deck definitely takes advantage of it. I mean, where Garurumon, I would love to say, is on this list, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think it takes a little bit of a back burner here. The Where Garurumon OTK is definitely my 11th pick, just because these other decks had picked up in speed, and they have more consistency, and it kind of just ties in a little bit. But I'm letting you know Metal Garurumon is not on this list. Would be a little bit earlier. Beelzemon definitely got that support from the advanced deck, definitely puts this deck in contention. The reason being is bad hands now go back in, and milling targets, the less of them you have in your hand, the better. So now you consistently can put stuff back and get a better hand. And again, this is just because Mulligan is a lot better. The deck does require to mill more, and now you can get the certain pieces. If you drew 3 of these Intmons, you weren't milling as much. Now you can put those 3 back and then hope for a better hand. That was always like one of the biggest reasons, was the variables strats were really tough for this deck, because if you drew too much of your mill engine, you were really slowing down, and you didn't want to do that. Now with the ability to put stuff back, you now have access a lot more to dead hands become less and less. And now your mill targets can get back into the deck at the start of the game before they get into security. So stuff like this really does add up quickly. Then we do have Machine Dramon. Machine Dramon definitely got some TLC it needed. And to be honest with you, being number 4, number 8, sorry. No, 10, 9, 8. Number 7. Sorry, number 7. Doy. Number 7 for Machine Dramon here. The reason why now with this Mulligan, we actually get a lot better. The deck has more consistency, being able to now put back dead hands and shuffle, because that really hurt the deck because you're now dead drawing stuff. But now we have more consistency back into it. No rookies, well, put all that back in, because we don't mind all our pieces being back in there as long as we can get to starting up the engine and getting to go for gas. So Machine Dramon gaining all this value definitely helped it out in a way that Mulligan really does want to do. And now we have consistency. We'll see pieces more often, and it's really useful. Then Grandis definitely got a TLC that it needed. Grandis' biggest issue was never seeing the rookie to start with. Now you Mulligan everything back, and especially because what would be bad is if 3 of your rookies were already in security, you weren't Mulliganing by 5 and pulling the next top 5 might not always get you what you needed. But now with the being able to, before we even put down security, we draw and then decide to put back, is huge. That first round of information is always vital. And that's a big player part too, is now that we are in a different draw the top 5 first kind of scenario. And stuff like this really starts putting in weight. So Grandis is still OTK king. And, I would have said Garurumon definitely got the pickup sticks too here, but I feel like these two are kind of weirdly neck and neck sometimes. But it's just OTK decks, people got better, but at the same time, all the other decks that were trying to counter OTK got better too. So it's just really weird. I think that's big information there. And then Bloomlord definitely got some TLC in the form of Greymon restriction, and then proceeding to being the Mulligan. Having Mulligan for Bloomlord is really good, because sometimes that top end shows up and you're really dead to the water. Now get rid of it. Boom. Now you have a better hand. Even at the cost, as long as you can shuffle out, that's really going to apply pressure, because now you have ways of getting consistency. Bloomlord was very consistent before, but the problem was Black War Greymon just wrecked it. But now with its problem child kind of gone, that they can't just do everything within that time frame of a turn that they want, really hurts the deck. And that's very much factual. Being able to have only one Greymon virus X antibody really hurt the deck in a way that they were not happy for. So this deck just speeds up and gets better, and then it gets Quartzmon next. That changes everything too. All this is good information. This changes a lot of data. This changes a lot of growth. And I think if you guys are planning for regionals and stuff like that, it's going to be a lot of crazy open seasons for a lot of decks. And I feel like, boom, Bloom Hydra is just going to be there. And you might want to be precautious about seeing Bloom Hydra, because, the deck is a very powerful deck as before. But now with the nerf to the one deck it really feared, slowed down, they still have to top deck Miracle to get to that one piece. And that Metal Greymon isn't de-digivolving for 2 anymore. And that's going to really apply a lot of damage. So I think Setcon's still really good at the end of the day. Setcon got a lot better with a Mulligan because the problem Setcon always had was opening hands. If it was too heavy and clunky for you, you couldn't really do anything about it. So the setback was always there. But now with saying Setcon's getting that boost in consistency, because now you're not putting security first, you're opening your hand first. And again, this is what happens when rule changes extremely like this. So having a way of now getting that hand going like, well, this is too heavy for me, I can't really work with it, toss it away, shuffle it, draw your next 5. You're stuck with that, but you're able to now see what's happening, and that shuffle now revitalizes all the options in different ways. And then boom, if your now security was going to be too weak in the next 5, you know what? Boom, you're now really good for this, because now security is going to go up in power. Then we do know that, All Force definitely took a good plus off of this. Major issues was not seeing your All Force or pieces to get to All Force. Now we have consistency to get there. And oh my goodness, having this ability to get to your consistency pieces really does change everything. All Force speeds up so quickly because of this, just because now you have a way of bad hand. Well, you know what? Let's shuffle it back in. Hopefully that reshuffle gets us a little bit better. And that leads into things where now your security is probably a little bit better in your favor. Stuff like this does matter. It means these options also start getting better, because if they didn't make it in the first, they were not making in the first 5. Now at least you get it in the first. You could get in that range actually, because you open your hand first. 5 cards come from your hand. If you see 2 Kaitis Breath, maybe shuffle it back in and hope that it might land up there. So stuff like this does add up pretty quickly. Then Dorobrick definitely got a love for this. Gotta say, Dorobrick went from being 1.5, but I feel like it went to a tier 1 deck with this Mulligan change. The fact of the matter is, Dorobrick now got some love it needed. This Mulligan strategy really powered it up, because you just needed to see Beelzemon sometimes in a lot of your draw engine pieces. If you didn't see that in your opening hand, you were kind of struggling. But now, with that Mulligan, you can now put back pieces, because you don't mind getting the draw pieces afterwards, but sometimes you'll get too many of your doubles or anything like that, and then that was just like, I don't need this many of my doubles, let me get rid of this. Now you have consistency ways of getting to these pieces, and just mulliganing away is huge. And Dorobrick is going to be a problem, and I can tell you that right now, just because of the way it plays out. This security, gain a bunch of security checks, and then boom, blow your opponent out of the water, really is going to do some damage. And it is a red-based deck. This deck is very powerful. And then finally, Crossheart. Crossheart definitely is going to be the number 1. I think Crossheart, just with Mulligan alone, it makes it a lot more consistent. I mean, sometimes just tossing stuff away really does lead into where you need to be. And, the consistency issue was there, as your only way of losing was the brick. And now, if you didn't get enough rookie pieces, you can just put away the hand and then redraw, leading into more combos and more interesting plays. I think this is a lot of information and a lot of data we got to take into account. And I think at the end of the day, this deck still is tier 1. Black War Greymon went down a lot, in my opinion, going to 10th place. I know you guys are going to probably go like, you're crazy if it's not in the top 4. I'm like, that hit really hurt, and Mulligan hurts more. And yes, I know where Garurumon OTK is going to be nuts, but I feel like it's the 11th place deck. I can't confidently put things in yet, just where I want them to be. But for now, until we get to the inevitable later in the month for closer to BT-12, what my picks for April will be for BT-12, we'll get into that. But for now, I think this is pretty solid for what to expect. So guys, what did you think? What would you put in place? Did Mulligan actually change these decks? If you think so, let me know down in the comments. Hopefully you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!